Good morning, scholars. We are going to continue today with chapter 13. Chapter 12 was an interesting one, right? Poppy learned a lot of interesting things from Aerith about porcupines. First, that they're not meat eaters, right? And second, that they can't shoot their quills. Third, that owls are probably scared of, right, porcupines. So it was a very big chapter for Poppy. She learned a lot of things about her learning growing up and how things are not quite what she thought they were. So today, chapter 13, early morning. Within the log, but not too far from its entrance, Poppy found herself a soft place to sleep. There, curled up in a tight ball, with her tail tip parked right below her nose, she felt safe enough to sleep. When she awoke, after a long, sound slumber, it was dark and quiet. She got up slowly and stretched her aching muscles, then looked about for some sign of Aerith. The old porcupine was nowhere to be seen. Was he gone for good? Not likely, Poppy knew, but he might be gone for hours. She also knew she was hungry. Cautiously, she made her way to the log's opening. It was night, and she could see neither sky nor stars. A silver sheen of moonlight made lace of the canopy of trees above even while transforming the ground into a carpet of velvet gray. She sniffed the air. Mingled with the sharp scent of pine and fir, she breathed in delicious hints of good things to eat: nuts, berries, seeds, fragrant flowers, tender roots. There were sounds, too: the creak and groan of trees, the sudden shrill cries of animals, the occasional fuzz-buzz of passing bugs. Poppy could only feel astonished. This was not Dimwood the Forbidding. This was Dimwood the Beautiful, a luxuriant world that teemed with life, a universe that held more than she had ever seen or dreamed of, a paradise that filled her with an almost aching desire to dance through it and see more. Wow, it's sounding a lot different than how she was feeling just a couple chapters ago about the forest, huh? Trembling with excitement, Poppy was about to take a step away from the log when she chanced to look up. On the gray, lifeless tree, with a hole on its side, an acorn toss from where she was, perched a brooding owl. The moment she saw the owl, Poppy darted back into the safety of the log. There she stayed, her heart thudding. Had the owl seen her? She did not think so. Could it, in fact, be Mr. Okix? If it was, how could he have tracked her? But perhaps it was another owl. She had to know. In any case, her elation was gone. The forest was not to be for her. She sighed at the fright she felt. Poppy tried to calm herself. First, she pondered over her discovery that Mr. Okix had lied about porcupines. At least, she did not have to be frightened about them. In spite of herself, she giggled when she thought about Aerith. Such a likable, unlikable creature. Scholars, think a minute about what that might mean. Such a likable, unlikable creature. Right? So are there things to like about Aerith, even though he tries to seem unlikable? Then she thought of what else Aerith had told her, that Mr. Oakix was actually afraid of porcupines. The notion that the owl was afraid of anything gave Poppy considerable pleasure. Perhaps he was afraid of other things as well. So, Poppy thought again about her suspicion that there was something at Newhouse that alarmed the owl. Oh, if only there was. If only she could find it. Feeling more hopeful, Poppy returned to the log's threshold to wait for Aerith. She wanted to take another look at the owl, but was afraid to. Instead, she sat, content for the moment to gaze out at the beautiful forest. The owl Poppy had seen was indeed Mr. Oakix. He was perched upon the entrance to his home, flexing his sharp talons and staring gloomily into the forest. Now and again he swiveled his head and blinked, then clacked his beak. Hungry, he wished that something, anything, would reveal itself by moving. Once, just out of the corner of his eye, he thought something moved at the entrance to the old log that lay not far from his snag. But it was gone so fast he could not be sure. Was it the porcupine? He hoped not. He hated Aerith. Just the thought of him made Mr. Oakix drop down inside his snag. Better to sit in the darkness and listen than deal with that creature. If something came by, he would hear it. "When are you leaving for Newhouse?" Aerith asked Poppy. The old porcupine had made his way back to the hollow tree before sunup. Bits of bark were stuck about his lips, chin, and whiskers. Soon, Poppy replied evasively. Right? Evasively means she's like trying to avoid it, right? Like, she probably doesn't really know, right? So trying to kind of avoid the answer. Good, Aerith said. You're a sweet kid, but I like my privacy. Aerith, Poppy began, after a moment. I know you want me to go, and I want to go too, but when I looked out before, I think I saw an owl. On that snag just beyond my door? Asked Aerith. The what? The old tree with a broken top. Poppy nodded. There was an owl sitting there, she said. I was told Mr. Oakix lives in Dimwood. Could that be him? Aerith snorted. Follow me. Somewhat anxiously, Poppy trailed the porcupine out of the log. That the snag you're talking about? Aerith said, pointing. Yes. Well then, that's where Oakix lives. Poppy jumped back. There? Absolutely. Don't you mind? Poppy whispered, edging closer to Aerith. Nah, he's a jerk. Anyway, he doesn't get near me. But he rules this whole territory. Him? Rule? Maggot milk. But it's true. Poppy, Aerith snorted. There are lots of creatures who live around here. Some are mean, like Oakix. And some are sweet, like me. Nobody rules. But he says he does. Oh, bees burp, Just because you're scared of someone doesn't mean you have to believe him. Aerith turned toward the snag. Oakix! He bellowed. Oakix! No! Poppy cried. Don't! It was too late. Mr. Oakix popped up in his snag hole. In a panic, Poppy scrambled to hide behind Aerith's tail. What do you want? Mr. Oakix demanded. I've got a mouse here by the name of Poppy who says you've been calling yourself ruler of Dimwood. That true? Instead of answering, Mr. Oakix shifted his head, trying to catch a glimpse of Poppy. When he saw her timidly peeking from behind Aerith's tail, he jutted his head forward, opened his eyes wide, and hissed. Aerith laughed. She also told me you claimed porcupines eat mice. That you protect them from me. Oakix, do you believe that garbage? Or do you just like the way it tastes in your mouth when you say it? Suddenly, Mr. Oakix's eyes narrowed. Where did you get that earring, girl? He shrieked at Poppy. That something I ate? Poppy became so frightened, she began to back up. What I eat is mine, girl. Mine, Mr. Oakix screamed. Listen here, Oakix, Aerith snapped. This mouse has as much right as you do to go and do what she wants. I don't want you messing with her. But Mr. Oakix, ignoring Aerith, only cried, Poppy, listen to me. I don't know what you're doing here, but you might as well know the only way you'll ever get back to Grey House is when I dump your dead carcass on your father's front porch. With that, he clacked his beak, then dropped down inside the tree. Alarmed and furious, Poppy ran forward and began beating her clenched paws on Aerith's nose. You lummox, she cried. You lump! You rattling pincushion! The porcupine only grinned. Why did you tell him about me? Poppy shouted. Didn't you hear what he said? He's going to kill me! Oh, he's nothing but feathers. He doesn't bother me. But you've got quills, Poppy protested. Jealousy don't become you, girl. Aerith, Poppy implored, I have to get to Newhouse. It's a matter of keeping my family alive. You're pretty small to be a heroine. Do you all know what a heroine is? Right? A heroine is a female hero, right? And he's saying, you're kind of small to be a hero, right? A female hero. Can heroes come in different sizes? I think they can. Poppy looked down at her toes. That's not the only reason I'm going. Oh? It's also because of Ragweed. Who? Ragweed. He was my friend. Poppy sniffed. See, he wanted to ask me to marry him atop Bannock Hill. Said it was the most romantic spot around. I did want to marry him, so I said I'd go. But only after asking permission of Mr. Oakix. That's the rule. But Ragweed said, "Where's the romance when you have to ask permission?" So we went without asking. When Ragweed and I got to the top, he did ask me to marry him, but before I could answer, Mr. Okix killed him. Then, later, the owl said it was because Ragweed and I went to the hill without permission that my family couldn't move to Newhouse. When they heard that, a lot of them, most of them, blamed me. Poppy pushed the tears away. So you see, I'm going to Newhouse to prove our being on the hill had nothing to do with Mr. Okix's refusal. If I don't prove it, my family can't go to Newhouse, and we'll be ruined. I'll be ruined. So I have to go. Only now that you've told Mr. Okix I'm here, he'll follow me and keep me from finding the truth. You've got to come with me. Aerith shook his head. Sorry, kid. This is your business, not mine. Anyway, I need to get some sleep. Yawning, Aerith turned and began to move toward the log. Aerith, Poppy cried out, if you got me to Newhouse, I'd get that salt for you. Aerith stopped short and spun about. A dreamy look filled his eyes. The salt lick? From Newhouse? The whole thing? You would? Really? Poppy placed a paw over her heart. I swear. Aerith grinned. Now you're talking, girl. Let's move it. Without a moment's hesitation, he began to lumber through the woods. Poppy took one look at the snag in the dawn light, then tore after the porcupine, meaning ran to catch up to Aerith. The two of them had barely gone when Mr. Okix popped out of his hole. Having heard the entire conversation, he wasn't sure which he felt more, fury or fear. But he did know he had to stop Poppy. He launched himself into the air. And that, scholars, is the end of the chapter.